Hello, I'm Wendy Brockman, and welcome to Denver Decides. This community partnership is dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. The partnership includes the League of Women Voters of Denver, Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, and Historic Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Our mission today is to present a candidate forum in anticipation of the municipal election coming up Tuesday, May 7th. Among other offices, this election includes the candidates for Denver City Council. In this case, from Council District 7, which is located in Central East Denver. Our format includes timed opening and closing statements that'll be followed by rounds of questions that have been submitted by organizers of the forum. The race for Denver City Council to represent District 7 has one candidate this time around. That candidate is Jolyn Clark, who is here to my left. Welcome to the forum, Mr. Clark.
Thank you very much.
I will be asking you a series of questions that were submitted by organizers partnering with the forum, and you will have 1 minute to answer each question.
All right.
Okay. Here is your first question. Neighborhoods in District 7 have seen an increasing number of scrape-offs and single-family homes, creating significant demolition debris. What ideas do you have to address the environmental impacts of demolition and foster the retention of smaller, more affordable homes?
Awesome question. And again, I'm Jolyn Clark, running in District 7. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for everyone who put this on. This is an issue that I know very well. I was born and raised in Denver, and my parents are they celebrated 50 years of being married, and now they're celebrating 50 years in their same home. And there are, on the block that I grew up on, almost 50% of the homes have been torn down and are brand new. So this is something that I grew up with. It's happening in the neighborhoods that I represent. And I think that this is a great question because it focuses on something that doesn't get talked about a lot, which is what happens to all of those materials. And part of our problem is we do not have a sorting facility in Denver right now to sort construction and demolition materials. Other cities have been able to put in a mandate that anything that is being torn apart has to be recycled, has to be reused, and be more aggressive with their demolition ordinances. We need a facility in Colorado. We don't even have one anywhere in Colorado that can sort those facilities. And so that's something that I've been working on, trying to find the land and the partners to be able to sort those things.
All right, your second question. Current practice to review zoning changes requires council to consider only the property being considered without regard to growth impact overall, i.e. looking at the bigger picture in terms of added traffic impact on intersections, resources like fire and police support, walkability, et cetera. So what changes, if any, to the review process would you prefer and why?
Yeah, our rezoning process is tough, and it used to be different before my time, where we got to look and dig into more of what was proposed and what is the impact during the rezoning process. That's changed now, where that has shifted over to the community planning development team, that they look at that when permits are pulled, and City Council isn't a part of that process at all. And that kind of development, once it gets to there's no notification of neighbors, there aren't conversations. So a lot of those things are being required, but they're not under any oversight by City Council. And so you see that comes up a lot in our rezonings, where there is a want and a need for us to have more information and have more of that up front. So I think it's absolutely something that we have to look at. Can we get back towards getting more of that up front when it comes to rezonings? There's also use by right development that never requires rezoning. I think we also have to have a conversation about how do we include the community in those conversations, because right now they're not included in those conversations at all.
Our forum organizers have another question for you. The designation area of stability has been eliminated from the draft of Blueprint Denver. Do you have any ideas that will ensure city neighborhoods will not be gobbled up by investors for projects that do not replace the type of housing opportunity or the existing price point currently in those neighborhoods?
Yeah, I think that, the new draft looks at our city and our planning differently, and we've gotten really comfortable with areas of stability and areas of change. I think there are still a ton of protections built into there, and there is a clear guidance in that document, which we haven't had before, to encourage overlay districts, conservation districts. In one of my neighborhoods, the Baker Historic District, the underlying zoning actually allows very dense row house development, but the historic district has preserved the single-family character and a lot of structures from being scraped. And so I think that we're moving towards a plan that has even more support for these micro overlays, these districts that will allow communities to really dig in and choose an overlay that goes on top of the zoning that accomplishes the kinds of things that people constantly come and hope that zoning will resolve. But our form-based zoning is not going to resolve that. Now we'll have access and support in the plan for the kinds of tools that will help to resolve that.
All right. Before our next question, I want to remind the viewers that Mr. Clark, the candidate for Denver City Council from District 7, is running unopposed. That is why there is not another candidate with us at the forum. All right, so let's continue with questions for candidate Jolyn Clark on the ballot. What are your ideas about what could be done with the $275,000 from the Grandoozy music event designated for parks and general neighborhood improvements?
It's a great question, but the coolest part about that money is it's not up to me, and it really doesn't matter what I believe. We're engaging in probably the closest thing that our city has seen to a real participatory budgeting process with those dollars, where the community, we had this amazing community meeting where people from all the neighborhoods around came and were able to throw any idea they had up against the wall and say, I'd like to see this. Those ideas are now back with city staff being vetted because we only have a couple $100,000, and some of the projects proposed were $1 million projects. And then we're going to come back to the community and show them, here's what we can do with that money, and allow them to be choosing within the buckets that were established, parks, neighborhood, what those dollars should be spent on. So I think it's a really exciting process that I hope we can learn a lot from and do more as we budget all of the dollars that our city has. But the coolest part of it is the community gets to come up with the ideas, and the community gets to decide how that money gets spent.
All right. To what do you attribute your being unopposed for this office?
Mostly my fabulous hairstyle. I don't know. I work really hard. I grew up in Denver. I love my community. It's been an honor and a privilege to represent, and I'm a nerd for city stuff. I go to every R&O meeting. This is what I was doing before I was on city council. I was PTA president at my kid's school, and I was on my neighborhood board because these are the things that I'm passionate about. And so I'm just going to keep doing that and giving everything I have to the people I represent. It's been such an honor and a privilege to be a voice for this community where I grew up. And, I think democracy is about having choice and about having debate. And so I do think that there's something lost, that there isn't somebody standing at a podium over there. It was not that I in any way expected not to have someone standing over there. So I don't know, but as long as the term limits will allow and the citizens of District 7 will allow, I'm happy to represent them.
If elected, do you commit to seeking a solution to Denver's homeless dilemma, knowing that persons making $500 a year cannot afford Denver's $250,000 affordable housing?
We have a huge problem with that, and part of it is that I haven't seen anyone, even the people who are working day to day in this issue, come forward with, here's the plan, here's the roadmap to solve this problem. We are doing a lot of really good stuff. We are revamping our shelters. We're looking at, how do we make sure that they are accommodating for couples, for people with pets, for our LGBTQ community. So there's a lot of work going into making things better, and we're looking at housing first models, but there are cities that went with housing first, which is a lot more expensive, and now they don't have enough shelter beds, and there are literally no place for people to go when they're in an emergency situation. So we have to dig deep into that. It is a critical issue that is a high priority for me and the rest of the council, but I don't know that there's a roadmap to solve it, so it's a hard thing. And we had a 10-year plan to solve homelessness, and it didn't get there. And so I don't think that it's worth making promises that we're going to solve something until we have that roadmap where we can go and we know how exactly to solve it, and then we can start taking the steps to do that.
Exactly what does it mean to you to represent District 7 on City Council, and why are you the best person for the job?
It means the world to me. As I mentioned before, this is my community, and this is not the path I set out on. My undergraduate degrees in natural resources. I've got a master's degree in nonprofit management. I worked for the Greenway Foundation, taking kids on field trips for my whole life, and life took a weird turn here. But being able to be a voice, being able to listen to the people who I represent, and then be their voice and be their advocate, and be involved in creating a permanent, dedicated source of funding for parks that goes on into forever in our city, and being able to help get the first rainbow crosswalk in our city down on Broadway in my district to celebrate our inclusive city and the LGBTQ community, and doing things that I never in a million years imagined I would be championing and sponsoring, and repealing the tax on tampons and feminine hygiene products, where we have a sexist tax baked in for years and years and years, and being able to get rid of that in the city and county of Denver, in the place that I love and I've spent my whole life and I'm raising my kids, it means everything to me.
Those are all the questions we have, so we're going to move to a closing statement, and you have 2 minutes. It's all you.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you all for coming, and thank you for the opportunity for everybody who put all the effort into making this happen. I think that this is such an important part of the process, even when there isn't that debate that I miss. Last time I ran, there were 9 of us, and a lot of great things came out of these debates and these conversations, and I learned so much from the people who I was running with and have become very good friends with so many of them and still call on them for advice. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here and speak to you. And thank you to all of the citizens and residents of District 7 for allowing me to be your voice and for helping push me and challenge me and support me. It's not been an easy job, but it's a job that I love the hard work that it is, and I'm going to fight like crazy for you for 4 more years. And so don't be a stranger. Call me, text me, email me. Every other month, I switch between doing a happy hour and a coffee, because I go knocking door to door even when I'm not campaigning, because I want to hear from people. I'm at all your neighborhood meetings. I work for you. You're my bosses, a lot of bosses, and so we won't always agree. You don't all agree with each other, but I'm here to represent you and do the best that I can. So thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark, for being here. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
We also want to say thanks to the Denver Decides partners, including Interneighborhood Cooperation, the League of Women Voters of Denver, and Historic Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Remember, the election is Tuesday, May 7th. Let your voice be heard. Be sure you're registered and be sure you vote. For complete election information online, go to denverdecides.com. I'm Wendy Brockman. Thanks for watching.